Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. It's gonna happen 'cause of strange guy named Elon Musk.
Boy,
And for that, I deeply apologize, and I think I've essentially undone my entire career in the space of 4.5 seconds. Hi, everybody. It's Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott. This is your members only right angle, brought to you by the singing idiot here at BillWhittle.com, plus these two gentlemen who have actually something pertinent to say.
I thought I was the singing idiot.
Oh, crap.
So, here's the thing. As I've maintained forever, I think to date, anyway, the pinnacle of human history was July 20th, 1969, when Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. And then, of course, you remember he and Buzz Aldrin erected the giant foam we're number one finger.
Planted the United Nations flag
and
at
then,
that point.
and then Buzz and Neil leaned into the camera and started chanting, USA, USA. Surely you remember that moment that's been excised from history because it's too vulgar.
The first selfie stick on the moon.
That's right. The big foam we're number one. In any event, it's been quite a while since that plaque was there, which read, here on July 20, upon the spot, I used to have it memorized. I'm so flustered now I can't even remember. At least I'm not going to sing it.
He gets nervous in front of the camera.
But they came in peace for all mankind. That's the right plaque.
I got it. Sorry. Here men from planet Earth first set foot upon the moon. July 20th, 1969, we came in peace for all mankind. Yeah. And that, to me, is the pinnacle of human history, because that's as far as we've gone. It really is the fastest, highest, everything, farthest. But this somewhat unstable guy who's not even born here, but certainly one of those Americans who just happened to be born overseas, Elon Musk, has picked his crew for the first moon mission with humans on board since 1972 with Apollo 17. He has basically done the stuff that he needs to do, and he's ready to go. And he's not going to send a toaster and then a snail and then a shrimp and then a dog. He's going full tilt boogie. He says he's going to send like 12 people around the moon. This is going to be like Apollo 8 mission, although I don't know if they're going into lunar orbit, but they are going to the moon, around the far side of the moon, and then they are coming back to planet Earth. And we expect this to happen in probably 3 years, somewhere around 2022. And I have a feeling that this is actually going to happen. And the reason I have a feeling this is actually going to happen is because one person who made a lot of money is now in charge of it. So, Steve, one of the things that's the most interesting about where the space program is right now, the private space programs, I've been an enormous follower of this whole movement. But there's that old saying, if you want, everybody knows the saying, how do you make a small fortune in aviation? When you start with a large fortune.
One, yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has done, and that's exactly what Jeff Bezos has done, and that's exactly what all of these entrepreneurs who are in space now, they have basically taken large fortunes. In Elon Musk's case, it was PayPal. In Bezos' case, it's Amazon. Taken large fortunes that weren't made in space and spent them on space, understanding that this is something where we may not see dividends on this for another 20, 30, 40 years, because you have to develop not just the technology, you have to actually create the economy upon which it's going to go. What do you have to say about that? And what do you think about the fact that that this mission is in fact a for-profit mission? A Japanese billionaire is footing the bill, and if I was a Japanese billionaire or any other billionaire, I'd be footing the bill too.
Yep. This is one of the most, maybe the most American story I can think of. You get the idea that the old robber barons made all their money to protect their families or whatnot. We've got these, to increase their political power and boss people around. But in this age, we've got these billionaires who made money not for the sake of making money, but because there was some really cool stuff they really wanted to do, but it was really expensive.
No, that's it.
And so here we've got Elon Musk is from South Africa originally, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So he comes to this country to make his fortune. He does. The Japanese billionaire who's going, Yusuke Maezawa, I think I'm probably butchering his name. He came to the United States as a young man in the early 90s as a as a punk rocker. He made some money in music, goes back to Japan and makes $3 billion selling stuff and clothes on the internet. Another American invention. And what's he going to do? He's going to come to the United States. He and 12 of his artist buddies, presumably from around the world, they're going to meet up, I suspect, with a largely American crew. Because, I mean, they're not going to send this, a Japanese internet billionaire and his buddies up without a pilot, an engineer.
It's something that's far too important to leave to Canadians.
Exactly. Exactly. So you've got this whole international thing that comes distinctly out of the United States and out of American ideas and ideals about entrepreneurship, and I want to do this thing because it's cool and I've made enough money to do it, so here we go. And the rumor is, I can't remember if this was a part of the Monday night announcement, the rumor is Elon Musk is going to be on board that spaceship as well. I don't know if that's true or not.
I'd be astonished if he wasn't.
And what's amazing is the BFS, that's the big Falcon spaceship. This is the model for the one that Musk
Falcon
wants.
spaceship.
Yeah, this is the model for the just like the big forceful gun from the Doom franchise.
That's right. I remember that BFG 9000.
Big forceful gun. This is the same ship that Musk wants to use to send people to Mars, I think 80 or 100 at a time. So this small crew of, say, 15 to 20 people is going to be living in relative luxury and comfort on their way to the moon. You know, we sent 3 guys to the moon at a time on Apollo. Only 2 of them got to go to the moon, and the whole time they're spam in a can. They're just squeezed up like this for 6 days, 7 days. We're going to have this much larger crew living in spacious luxury by comparison, and that is made possible by the entrepreneurship that this country fosters. And Bill, I just I get a tear again just thinking about it.
Me too, man. If this small crew of 15 is actually going to fly on this mission, I suspect they will. That will be by a significant margin, the largest number of humans ever to fly in space at the same place and at the same time, including a fully loaded ISS with a shuttle crew and the ISS crew.
They get what, 7, 8, maybe 9 people on the ISS?
7 on the shuttle,
time?
3 on the ISS, so may have been 11 or 12 tops, but never all on the same ride. And so that alone is amazing. And I'm very glad that it's going to be an African American that's going to bring America back to the moon. I think that's a very important point to make. And I'm not joking about this. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean it like, if this is how you're going to identify people, if this is how you're going to chop up Americans into little groups and tribes, then I could play that game too.
Sure.
Scotty, here's the thing. The whole reason that SpaceX exists and has done the kind of things they've done. We remember we covered the launch of the Falcon Heavy live, and then we saw the release of the Tesla Roadster and Candy Apple Red with an astronaut there.
Starman.
Yeah, that's right, Starman. And they're playing David Bowie Into the Vacuum, and on the TV screen is Don't Panic from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Apparently, there's some talk about calling the ship the Heart of Gold, which is also from kind of an obscure, for engineers anyway, reference. But here's what I'm getting at, Scott. Here's some names that you probably heard of: Lockheed, Boeing, Northrop, Hughes, Cessna, Lear, and I could go on for quite a while. McDonnell, Douglas, all of these. These are names that we know because these are the names of these giant corporations now that manufacture pretty much all of the flying hardware of any consequence in the world. McDonnell merges with Douglas, now it's McDonnell Douglas. Lockheed merges with Boeing, now it's Boeing, Lockheed, Boeing, whatever. Doesn't matter. Point is, all of those names are not corporate names that were chosen. Those are the names of individual men named Howard Hughes and Douglas and Lockheed and Boeing and Cessna, Clyde Cessna, all of this. If the FAA had been in charge of American aviation during the golden age of aviation, I would be buying my next trip from Los Angeles to New York, and I'd be flying in a wood-wing, propeller-driven airplane that seated 12, did 200 miles an hour at 9,000 feet, and cost $7,000 each way for the ticket. It was the individual effort and competition that made air travel what it is today, and I don't see how anybody could have done this without the ability to say, oh, and by the way, I want them to be playing David Bowie when we launch this thing.
It's still a land where nothing of significance happens unless there's a man with a dream. And by man, I mean men or women. It is astonishing. I was watching this live broadcast, and when I first tuned into it, the Japanese guy was talking. And I didn't know who he was at that point, but I figured he's the guy because I knew the announcement was coming. He's the one that they're going to put on the plane. And frankly, you know, the combination of his broken English, his childish enthusiasm, and this what at first sounded like a really sort of nutty thing, like, I am not just going to fly on this, I am going to bring my friends along. I'm going to pick artists from all over the world who are sculptors and painters and dancers and musicians, and I'm going to take them with me. Imagine what it's like for them to encounter the moon up close, and what kind of art will they make as a result of that kind of stuff. And at first, I got to admit to you, I was just like, oh, come on. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. Up until now, space has been the purview of a very small subset of a particular personality type, of scientists and engineers, of mathematicians and test pilots. And there's a whole group of people who have never been in space, you know. And, you know, we put a couple of teachers up there, but still primarily academic oriented people. And I began to actually love this idea. I thought, and I know probably all going to be leftists, and that's fine. But I just love the idea that in this country, you can say, hey, we got an idea. We're going to shoot a rocket with like a dozen or more people on it, 240,000 miles out into the void of space. We're going to do a lap around the moon or two, and then it's going to take a week. And then we're going to come back, and this guy here, because he wants to do it, is going to pay for it all. This Japanese businessman is going to fund this effort. And one of the reporters at the little sit-down kind of Q&A that they had afterward asked Elon Musk, how did you find this? How did you pick this Japanese guy? What was your selection process? And Musk said, oh, we didn't select him. He selected us.
There you go.
And I just thought, that's awesome.
It is awesome.
You know what my question is? Can you take a group of artists, as Scott said, probably left-wing, and turn them into steely-eyed missile men? And I bet when they come back, they'll be a little less liberal.
They'll be less liberal, but they won't be steely-eyed missile men. This is something that that's
the whole point.
No, but this is my point. Yeah. This is my entire point. Yeah, this is what I wanted to say. I think probably the uniqueness of me, to whatever degree I'm unique, is that I've managed to grow up in both of these circles, and this is a Venn diagram that doesn't happen very often. Yeah. You don't often meet people who have got been flown experimental airplanes and had the mental discipline to get your instrument rating and fly at 200 miles an hour when you can't see out the window, and that kind of thing requires a certain skill set. And so does being able to pick a nice color and a nice font and deciding what kind of dialogue is appropriate in costume and all the rest of it. These are not only not similar skill sets, they are oppositional skill sets. The last time we were on the moon, last time we went around the moon, was Apollo 17 in December of 1972. And there's a great deal of excitement because for the first time ever, there was going to be a scientist on the moon. Gene Cernan was the mission commander for Apollo 17, and Mr. Schmidt was the astronaut who was also a geologist. And wow, now we're really cracking it open. Now we've got a geologist on the moon. The business about taking an artist is not trivial at all, because the people who have had the experience are the least capable of describing the experience. Up until now, that is absolutely the case. The people who have had the experience are the least capable of describing the experience, and the reason for this is because the ability to describe the experience well does not generally mesh with a stuck thruster and a 60 RPM rotation problem that you can't cure. So Elon Musk is going to be bringing, when we say we're going to be bringing art to space, it's kind of a hoity-toity way of thinking about it. This is going to be the first mission where people who know how to convey an experience are going to be there. It's going to be great for that in that regard. And I think that aspect of it is just absolutely tremendous. I think it's tremendous that this guy with his own money, and by the way, and a Japanese guy with his own money, have decided to do this because it's fun and cool and they can. And I certainly hope, and I think it's pretty likely, this is not a lunar landing mission, by the way. I should have probably made that right in the beginning, very clear. But you're going to the moon, and by the way, folks, most of us have seen diagrams of the Earth and the moon relative size, and in order to show the relative size of the Earth and the moon on the same page or in the same frame, you have to put them pretty close together. You would be astonished at how far apart the Earth and the moon actually are. It is a long way out there. So this is what we believe. This is our entire belief system right here. Not only that one person can have the vision and decide to spend his own money on something he wants to do. I know we're going to hear people say, well, he took government subsidies, and so the government doesn't have a way of getting our own astronauts into space, so somebody's got to pay for that ticket. But the point is this, Elon Musk does it because it's fun. And this is the thing that the left always misses about capitalism, and always misses about entrepreneurs, and always misses about the wealthy. They always assume that people who are wealthy went into the business that they went into in order to make money. And it's been my privilege to know a number of millionaires, and I've met a few billionaires. Not as close friends with them as I would have liked, but they're not dead yet. But every single one of these cases, without question, was somebody taking a risk to do something that they loved in order to do what they loved. And because of that, that ended up making a lot of money. It's one of the signal honors of my life to be a close friend, I would say, of Burt Rutan, who basically started the whole private space endeavor back in 2004 when he put the first private citizen in space, Mike Melville, who also happens to be an African-American, by the way. And I asked him about getting this thing funded. And he got it funded to a tune of about $25 million by Paul Allen. And as I recall the story, after Burt made the pitch, Paul said, yeah, that sounds like fun, let's do it. That's how things happen. That's how you get iPhones. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak said, it'd be cool to have our own computer in the house, wouldn't it? Yeah, that sounds like fun, let's do it. That sounds like fun, let's do it. That actually should be on our coins. That should be the motto of the United States. It really is. Sounds like fun, let's do it. Let's build a jet-powered outhouse, and by the technology that we use in order to do that, somehow we're going to find a way to cure cancer and do all the rest of the things. So we're going back to the moon, and it's Americans going back to the moon. And I'll just close by saying this. I think by now people have a pretty solid idea of how much I love the space program and how little I think of the millennial generation as a general rule. But watching SpaceX in action, I realize all of these people are, as in the days of NASA, late 20s, early 30s. They are millennials. They're wearing T-shirts. They're doing all of this stuff. They don't look like rocket scientists, but that's because I'm an old fogey and I have a vision of what a rocket scientist is supposed to look like. But the point I'm trying to make is they are rocket scientists. They're superb rocket scientists. They're superb engineers. They're superb communications and technical specialists. And when I saw those two boosters come back from that Falcon Heavy flight, and the sonic booms as these two things landed together so that we could use them again, then I said, there's hope for, there's life in the old girl yet, So that'll be it for your Members Only Right Angle, brought to you by yourselves. And Steve and Scott and I couldn't be happier and more grateful for the opportunity that you've given us all through the years, and that we hope to be able to continue to do through the years to come. We'll see you next time right here on Right Angle.